completamente. Y
Bueno, yo creo que la más joven del grupo no diga dos palabras. Bueno, Yo sé que a la dama hermosa no se pregunta la edad, pero ¿qué edad tiene? 89 años, 89 años. Estamos aquí en Estados Unidos y vivimos, pero nuestra familia, nuestra sangre, nuestra gente están allá. Las raíces de nosotros son de allá. No, no podemos engañar a nadie. Siempre, siempre hemos de ver por las personas que sufren hambre y miseria. Hambre, miseria y calamidades de todo tipo, sin zapatos, sin ropa, sin nada, porque yo viví aquello. Y yo me quedé sola con mi vecino y mi madre. Y gracias a mi madre, que me ayudó tanto, pude darle carrera a mis hijos. Y mis hijos se hicieron personas. ¡Viva Cuba Libre! ¡Viva! La familia cubana.
Las fotos de todos los presos políticos y la represión. Todas las fotos de todos los reprimidos en Cuba y están frente a la sede de los
dos líneas.
Que la esperanza resentida, que la oración que busca el verbo, con tormentas sin sus riesgos, entre cielo, tierra y mar. Somos más. Somos más. Somos más. ¿Dónde está Cuba? ¡Ahí!
Look at you.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Iskra. Welcome
Hello.
to another edition of Somos Más English. You might be wondering why I'm wearing this. It's just to stand in solidarity with the Cubans that went and protested on October the 10th in front of the United Nations building and in other countries as well, in front of Cuban embassies. Because the United Nations admitted Cuba into the Human Rights Council. I wanted to actually ask Iskra how the trip went, because she was actually there in person.
I was, and it's always a great experience. It's always a different experience every time we do these. And every time we do these, we get new people, and it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I highly recommend for anyone that has never experienced something like this to join us next time, because it's not the same thing as being viral and then in being there in person, with having that feeling with the people that are feeling the same thing you are at the moment. And excuse me. And I'm trying to make sure that this doesn't move around. And every time we do this, it just I'm overwhelmed with so many young people that come. We have from very, very young kids that joined us to very old grandmothers that were there in wheelchairs, and and they gave us their testimonies, and it's such a great experience to be a part of this, and so I always, first of all, want to thank each and every person that went from all over the United States. We had people come from Philadelphia, Florida, Jersey, Virginia. We came from South Carolina, of course, um, but from all over. And it's just it's wonderful to be in one feeling, knowing that we're all standing up for the same things, and we're the voices for those that don't have one. Um, and so I thank each and every one of you that were there. And and it was just, and if you weren't there, please try to make it the next time, because um, you will not regret it. I promise you. This is kind of addictive. The first time I went to Washington D.C. was like my first protest, and after that we've we've just been nonstop, because it's addictive, because you want to be able to continue this feeling, and continue giving people hope. I think this gives people in the island some sort of hope. They see that we're doing something for them. They see that their voices somehow are being represented all over the world. It wasn't just in the United States. We had representation in different countries, internationally, and every time we do something, this is the same. It's the same thing, right, Riquette? I mean, it's not just here. It's a feeling that's overwhelming, because we're it's like one heart beating all over the United States with the same, doing the same thing and feeling the same way, and it's a wonderful thing.
That's right. I'm trying to pull up your pictures because we had on October 10th, we also had demonstrations in Spain and in Peru as well.
Yeah.
Um, I do not know why it's not doing it, but I wanted to then, while I do that, let me go ahead and actually show people why we did this. I have right now a report from Human Rights Watch, the 2020 report on Cuba. So I'll just
Okay.
go through that really quickly, guys. One moment, please, as I share screen.
Yeah, we have some people that are dying to come in here, so
I know it.
you're gonna
I
start
know.
putting
I'm gonna
putting
warm them up
emojis.
right now. I'm gonna heat them up because I know that they're ready to go.
They are they are wanting to come in. And
All right. So let me see. And right, let's do this. And let me zoom in here so that people can read it. Okay. So
mhm.
Human Rights Watch report on Cuba 2020, events of 2019. So this was oh my God, Aliel Ruiz Urquiola.
Yeah.
So this was it had to do with, this is a picture of a LGBTQ march, being repressed, of course, because that's how we roll. Che Guevara loved to put gay people in concentration camps. But
Yes.
I'm just going to read this really quickly. The Cuban government continues to repress and punish dissent and public criticism. They're in the Human Rights Council. Why? The number of short-term arbitrary arrests of human rights defenders, independent journalists, and others was lower in 2019 than in 2018, but remained high, with more than 1,800 arbitrary detentions reported through August. The government continues to use other repressive tactics against critics, including beatings, public shaming, travel restrictions, and termination of employment. In February, a new constitution of the republic, so this is the 2020 report, which is addressing 2019, right?
Right.
Was approved in a referendum, which entered into force in April. Prior to the referendum, authorities repressed activists opposing its adoption, including through raids and short detentions, and blocked several news sites seen as critical of the regime. On October 10, 2019, Miguel Diaz-Canel, who is the president, with 96.76% of the vote, because that's a normal percentage of votes in the National Assembly members, right? Arbitrary detention and short-term imprisonment. The Cuban government continues to employ arbitrary detention to harass and intimidate critics, independent activists, political opponents, and others. The number of arbitrary short-term detentions, which increased dramatically between 2010 and 2016 from a monthly average of 172 incidents to 827 per month, started to drop in 2017, according to the Cuban Commission for Human Rights and National Reconciliation, an independent human rights group that the government considers illegal, of course. The number of reports of arbitrary detentions continued to drop in 2019, with 1,818 from January through August, a decrease of 10%. Wow, what an
Mm.
improvement compared to the 2024 reports during the same period in 2018. Security officers rarely present arrest orders to justify detaining critics. In some cases, detainees are released after receiving official warnings, which prosecutors can use in subsequent criminal trials to show a pattern of delinquent behavior. Very vague charge. I mean, is it even a charge? Detention is often used to prevent people from participating in peaceful marches or meetings to discuss politics. Detainees are often beaten, threatened, and held incommunicado for hours or days. Police or state security agents routinely harass, rough up, and detain members of the Ladies in White, Damas de Blanco, a group funded by the wives, mothers, and daughters of political prisoners, before or after they attend Sunday Mass. So, literally, mostly black ladies dressed in white coming out of church protesting that their family members are in jail for political reasons are then also arrested and beaten and repressed. It's
Well,
you cannot write this. Go ahead.
no, we are actually in the middle of a project where literally we're taking every single human rights and the Human Rights Act, and every single one, we're going to be, putting examples of how this government has violated every single one of those articles in the Human Rights Act. So, how the heck, they can be, you know, representing this organization that's supposed to be, you know, taking care of human rights for the people. I have no clue, and so we're appalled. And this is why the protest is being held, and what we will continue to protest throughout this week. We will continue to send out pictures. We have plenty of people that have bought their prisoners uniforms like yours, and they're going to upload pictures to the ONU, and we're going to continue. The protest
That's right.
cannot stop. This is a fight. It's a battle. It's not going to be an easy one, because unfortunately, this is an organization that has been penetrated by dictatorship, and it seems to be like they're running the show, but that
Yeah.
can't happen, because then who's going to fight for the people that need a voice? This is what that organization was supposed to be doing. Then who, if they don't do it, then who will?
Right. It's upside down, bizarro world where the dictatorships have basically taken over the United Nations, where you're supposed to go to, um, you know, claim your human rights and ask for help. That organization is basically controlled by China, Russia, Venezuela, Iran, and all these weird countries that do horrible things to people. They continuously try to pass resolutions against the United States. For example, now they've been doing that lately with the Black Lives Matter and racism, right? They're saying, oh, the United States is violating human rights of black people, while at the same time, with all the evidence that we have, I mean, we are not professional journalists. We're just getting this from the people that send it to us or post it on social media, right? Our family, our friends. it is the easiest thing to do to just
Yeah.
go on Google and find this information, right?
Right.
Human Rights Watch has it. There's an open case right now in the UN on the UN regarding the modern slavery of Cuban doctors. I mean, this has been documented over and over and over again, but Univision doesn't cover it as they should. Telemundo doesn't cover it as they should, and
None,
all these
none of the medias are covering this. I mean,
exactly. And then like
they're
in,
not
in
covering anything, are they? I mean,
no,
to be honest, I'm really concerned about the media, and journalism, where it's going, and especially here in the States, you know, why are these medias not covering the full spectrum? Journalism is supposed to give you a full spectrum of the news, not just the one-sided. And unfortunately, all we're seeing is a one-sided media. Um, I don't know, Rika, do you want to go ahead and add the link on? Because I've got people that are wanting to come in here.
I see that. Hold on, let me finish up the case so that everybody knows what's going on, and then we'll open it up. Okay.
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 Hmm.
All right. In September, in an effort to prevent a demonstration organized by the Cuban Patriotic Union, UNPACU, authorities detained over 90 activists and protesters and raided the union's headquarters, media reported. The protest supported the Ladies in White and other persecuted groups and rejected the 2017 political dialogue and cooperation agreement between the Cuban government and the European Union. That is something now. The European Union is so complicit in this. It coincided with a high-level European delegation visit to Cuba. But I think we're having some effect on the European Union. I think there's one delegate that is working closely with us. Freedom of expression. The government controls virtually all media outlets in Cuba and restricts access to outside information. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, an independent organization that promotes press freedom worldwide, Cuba has the most restricted climate for press in the Americas. A small number of independent journalists and bloggers manage to write articles on websites or blogs or publish tweets. The government routinely blocks access within Cuba to these websites. In February, before the referendum on the new constitution, it blocked several news sites seen as critical of the regime, including 14 Medio, Tremenda Nota, Ciber Cuba, Diario de Cuba y and Cubanet. Why am I saying it in an English accent? I apologize for that. That was crazy. Since then, it has continued to block other websites. It also just recently blocked Telegram, and Telegram said, and the Cuban government was actually saying, it was in tweets, it was saying, oh, Telegram servers are down. And then Telegram said, no, the servers are not down. You're blocking us.
Right.
Um, only a fraction, I'll pull that up later when I can. Only a fraction of Cubans can read independent websites and blogs because of the high cost of unlimited access to the internet. In 2017, Cuba announced it would gradually extend home internet services. Hooray! In July 2019, the government issued new regulations allowing for the creation of private wired and Wi-Fi internet networking homes and businesses and to import routers and other equipment. Wow, they gave them permission to have routers in their houses.
Yeah.
Okay, in 2019, let
Mhm.
me tell you, okay, I don't know if you understood that. I'm just going to repeat it. In 2019, the Cuban people were allowed to have routers in their homes. Let that percolate in your mind.
In
Uh,
2018, how long? How long before have we all had routers in our house?
I came in 1998 and we had internet. It was the 56K, but yeah. Madness. Okay. Independent journalists who publish information considered critical of the government are routinely subject to harassment, violence, smear campaigns, travel restrictions, raids on their homes and offices, confiscation of the working materials, and arbitrary arrests. The journalists are held incommunicado as are artists and academics who demand greater freedoms. In April, police agents detained Roberto de Jesus Quiñones, an independent journalist who publishes on the news site Cubanet outside of the Guantanamo Municipal Tribunal when he was covering a trial. They beat him while transporting him to the police station. Authorities released him 5 days later, but initiated criminal proceedings against him. According to a local free speech group, in August, a municipal court sentenced Quiñones to a year in prison on charges of resistance and for failing to pay a fine imposed upon his release in April. Disobedience. A disobedience fine. Okay. He was detained on September 11 and transferred to the Guantanamo Provincial Prison, where he was serving his 1-year prison sentence at time of writing. In July, Decree Law 370, 2018, we talked about this before, on the informatization of society,
Mm.
entered into force, making it illegal for Cubans to host their websites from a server in a foreign country, other than as a mirror or replica of the main site on servers located in national territory. Huh. Wonder why? Control maybe? Though the scope of the rule remains unclear, it could affect most Cuban critical independent news sites and blogs, which are purposely hosted abroad, of course. It also prohibits the dissemination of information contrary to the social interest, morals, good manners, and integrity of the people. You can fit so much in there to arrest anyone for any reason. Violations can lead to fines and confiscation of equipment. In April, Decree 349, establishing broad and vague restrictions on artistic expression, entered into force. Under it, people cannot provide artistic services in public or private spaces without prior approval from the Ministry of Culture. That's right. The book 1984, they have a Ministry of Truth, Ministry of whatever, Ministry of this. This is real life in Cuba. The Ministry of Culture crushes culture.
Right.
Because there's only one culture, monoculture, communist culture. Those who hire or make payments to people for artistic services without authorization are subject to sanctions, as are the artists. Sanctions include fines, confiscation of materials, cancellation of artistic events, and revocation of licenses. Local independent artists have protested the decree both before and after it entered force. 3 were detained in December 2018 when attempting to join protests, media reported. Political prisoners. According to the Cuban Commission of Human Rights and National Reconciliation, as of October, Cuba was holding 109 political prisoners. The government denies independent human rights groups access to its prisons, of course, because they are gross hovels, dystopian places where you get sick for any number of unhygienic reasons, where you have uh, incredible amounts of violence. They mix the political prisoners with the general population, with the most violent criminals. They also, as we said in our last episode, they inject the political prisoners with this new vaccine to test it out. And they also hold them in, for example, very damp and cold and dirty cells to make them sick on purpose, etc. And they just beat them regularly for no reason. So according to the groups released, the additional political prisoners whose cases they have been unable to document remain locked up. Cubans who criticize the government continue to face a threat of criminal prosecution. They do not benefit from due process guarantees, such as the right to fair and public hearings by a competent and impartial tribunal. In practice, courts are subordinate to the executive and legislative branches. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why. I think that I've heard of one lawyer that is actually still in Cuban fights for people sometimes, but most lawyers don't get involved with these types of cases, or they'll tell you right out, you're not gonna win this one. In December 2018, activist Hugo Damian Prieto Blanco of the Orlando Zapata Civic Action Front was sentenced to a year in prison for the crime of pre-delinquent social dangerousness, peligrosidad. Minority Report is a thing in Cuba. I'm telling you that we are from the future.
Yeah.
We're here to warn you. Under the penal code, a person can be considered in a dangerous state when found to have a special proclivity to commit crimes, even before any have been committed, due to conduct in clear contradiction to the norms of the socialist morals. It's not even morals, it's socialist morals.
Right.
Zapata had been arrested in November 2018 when participating in a protest. In April, his sentence was suspended and he was released. Hooray for that. In May, after more than 2 years in prison, Dr. Eduardo Cardel Concepcion, leader of the Christian Liberation Movement, was released with limits on his movement and activities. Cardel, a supporter of the One Cuban, One Vote campaign, had been sentenced to 3 years in prison in 2017. During his imprisonment, he was held in solitary confinement and denied visits and contact with family members, even by phone. Authorities argue that family visits were not contributing to his re-education. Guys, re-education camps, you think only China does this with the Uyghurs? This is a thing, okay? Brainwashing is a thing, and just mental torture and psychological torture.
Yeah. Even as early, I mean, I was in first and second grade and I went to those camps during summer schools. So even as early as 5 and 6 years old, you get sent to camps away from your mother and father, away from your home. And this is something that's real, and you start to get brainwashed by every and indoctrinated is that a word?
Indoctrinated,
There you
I
go.
think. Yeah.
That's the word I couldn't remember. Yeah.
All right. I posted the link because I'm getting heated up right now. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll read a paragraph and then I'll hear you guys comment.
Yeah. I think they want to come in.
All right.
uh,
Hey, how's it going, Raidel?
Hello, Redel. Thank you for joining us.
Riket, Iskra, how are you? A little bit jealous that I couldn't go on Saturday, but
Oh, well, I tell everybody every time I do these, we do these things and we get together with people. I mean, of course, it's always some of us that are, from 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 way back when, but then we always meet new people, and it's such a great thing to see all the, especially the younger ones, the young kids, the new generations, and to know that they're wanting to be a part of something bigger than themselves is really that, and that's just it's it's just really important for me. Education has always been big on me, so this is part of educating those kids, you know for us, being that, I feel like their mother, because they can all be my kids. You guys can all be my children. So passing a lot of this experience on to them and to you guys, and it's a wonderful thing being a part of this. And I just love their energy, and them being wanting to be a part of this, and fighting for something, that we all need. And they understand the importance of fighting, of what we're fighting for. So yeah.
hopefully the message keeps getting out. Because if you look at the facts of Cuba getting accepted on the Human Rights Council, is such a mockery from Article 9 to Article 25. I was just reading it while Riquet was showing the stuff. And Cuba is the perfect example of how to fail, how not to meet the rights that are stated in there, like the rights to not be prosecuted without justification, the right to have a decent home, the right to food, the right to not be incarcerated. None of those. That there are plenty of examples.
I mean, I'm working on Article 2, which is the right of discriminate. You can't discriminate against someone because of their even color, sex. I mean, everything about human rights, every single article they have violated. So for them to be even, and they're actually representing like they have a not just a representation, but they're in part of the directory of this, and you know that's just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, that they would be in charge pretty much.
I know, to be given a chair on the council, you're supposed to have your house in order. You should have been an example of respecting human rights, to the point that you can now export that experience. But it's all the opposite. It's no wonder the U.S. left the Human Rights Council in 2018.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I think, I don't know if that was a mistake on their part, because I think they should have stayed and they should have fought. We should have fought for them to do the right thing instead of just leaving. And I understand the reasons why they left. But that's just like, when we left Cuba, we left. We didn't fight for our rights, and that we didn't do the right thing, and I know that. I mean, I was a child and I didn't have a choice, but and I'm thankful to my parents for giving me the opportunity of growing up with the freedom that I have today. But honestly, we and that's the mind that we need to change inside the young people in Cuba. They're all wanting to leave. That's all they look forward to, and we need to change that mentality. They need to stay and they need to fight. That's what they need to, that's what they need to do. Because if they don't do it, then who's going to do it? We're going to continue on with the same thing over and over. It's going to be a cycle.
Exactly.
Sydney, hi, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Hi everyone. Hi Radel, Riken, Iskra. How are you doing?
We're
How's it
good.
going?
We're
Good,
good.
excellent.
Full of energy. We had a wonderful time up there.
I saw
It
you.
was
I saw you.
yeah,
I'm
it
so
was
very
great.
proud of you. Unfortunately, I live at the West Coast. It was impossible to me to cross
Wow.
all over and get there, but we've been following the social media, and I was very proud of all of you. Your voices were heard, and I think, as Raidel said, and as you said, they failed every single one of those statements. So they are the perfect example or of how not to be ready to be in that sitting in that seat.
Right.
So what is left for us is to make noise,
Okay.
and that's what you've been doing, and we need to keep doing it because as I was telling uh, Carlito Madrid the other day, we were talking about that
Mm-hmm.
next month we're gonna see North Korea sitting next to everyone. That's the only thing that's left for them. And
Mm.
I don't know what are the criteria. I don't know what's the criteria
I think
to
the
include.
criteria is you have to be a dictatorship.
Yeah, yeah, seems like it. Seems like it. That's the new criteria. I remember Adele was saying something about that last week. So what was the purpose of the creation of the United Nations? It was exactly to prevent the opposite of what's going on right now. It's to prevent another genocide, another bunch of violations, and the intention was very good. And for a while, it worked pretty good. I was always like kind of hesitant of how Cuba was a signatory of the Human Rights Convention in 1948. I mean, in 1948 was okay but how did they let Fidel Castro keep to be part of after like 1961 when he declared the socialism and after all the several and consecutive violations of the human rights? So I don't know why they kept him in and being part of the United Nations because I I'm assuming you need to fill some standards to be
Right.
part of any organization,
Uh-huh.
and and you need to keep those standards on a regular basis, and I'm assuming you will be submitted to checks and balances to double check if you're still have the what it takes to be in the part of any organization. So they kept Castro in the same way they kept a lot of dictators, some very notorious dictators. So I think I can think in another word that there's a prostitution of the character of the United Nations right now. I can think of another word that describes the best what's going on right now. But
Yeah.
that's all we have left to make noise, to 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 make our voices heard that we are aware that what's going on and that we
And
are.
yeah. And you know what, Sydney? The left is really good at doing that. Communists are really good at making noises. They're extremely good at it. So we need to be better. We need to get better at this because um, they're good. They're good. They've been doing it for a very, very long time. Okay, and that's why I think it's, these English sessions are so important, because we need we need to this needs to be heard internationally, not just in this Hispanic community, but internationally. And this message needs to transcend. And I did my message there. I spoke in English, because there was people there that spoke in French, and we had people speaking in Russian. So we had people from everywhere. It was wonderful. We had a group from Bolivia, who spoke and said,
Yeah.
we yeah, it was great. We had they came and they like, we thank you, because you guys give us some hope, and we want to be do what you're doing. We had a girl that's following us also. She's from Puerto Rico. And just seeing all the communities from all over. It's just wonderful, and so we need to continue. We can't give up. We have to keep going. And it'll work slowly, slowly. It's not an easy process. It's not going to be an overnight process. I know it's going to take time. I know people are, a lot of people were saying that it was going to be this year. I don't. I think Carlito Madrid made it a point this morning, right? Right, Del, you were in his. I saw
Yeah.
you in his thing. Yeah, I'm with him. I don't see it happening right away. I think it's going to take some time, and like I said, especially to change the minds. But I think the younger generation, they're ready. They just need to mm, get change them. We need to change that mindset, and it'll happen slowly, but it'll happen.
And I
We just
think,
can't give up.
as you said, the socialists are great at making noise, but they are also great at making excuses and manipulating the state of mind around the world. I was watching an analyst the other day talking about the subject of Cuba in the council, and he was saying, well, I'm quoting him somewhat, is that I believe that the reason why Cuba and all these countries were accepted are because these countries are subject to a major level of scrutiny if they are members of the council.
Yeah.
But that is an
What?
excuse, because we
Yeah.
all know that once you are part of the head of the house, you are part of the head. You are the one that says who gets inspected and who does not. So now,
Exactly. Like you're going to police yourself. Is that how
exactly.
that works? You're going to police yourself more when you are the policeman. This is the logic that this person put out.
Right.
I could do this job. And these people get paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars, or like, over six figures a year to do this apologia, like this defense and justification of these terrible regimes. I think I could do this job and be better than they are. This
Very
is
qualified.
ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I had
let me
learned.
let me read another section of human rights violations, and then we'll comment some more. Hold on.
Uh-oh. Yeah. There we go.
So Jose Daniel Ferrer, the leader of UNPACU, was of course arrested. Now they let him go. This was in 2019, but of course no charges, and he wasn't seen. At that time, I remember we made like a lot of noise actually, and we
Yeah, we
because
did.
they just took him and they disappeared him. Like his wife didn't know, his kids didn't know where he was. There was no warrant or anything, but they let him go. They let him go eventually. Maybe like how many? Maybe a month or something later. The same month, Armando Sosa Fortuny, the oldest political prisoner in Cuba, died from health complications at a hospital in Camagüey, where he was transferred from prison last August. Sosa had served 26 of a 30-year sentence issued in 1993 for illegal entry to Cuba and other acts against the security of the state, whatever that means. Can you imagine if we just gave like a 26-year sentence to like illegal immigrants? Oh my God. Sosa, a well-known dissenter, spent 43 of his 76 years imprisoned in Cuba. My God, can you imagine that? And then this is another section here, travel restrictions. So this is similar to the apartheid in South Africa. Even though Fidel and Mandela were best buds, Since reforms in 2003, many people who had previously been denied permission to travel have been able to do so, including human rights defenders and independent bloggers. The travel reforms, however, gave the government broad discretionary power to restrict the right to travel on grounds of defense and national security or other reasons of public interest. And authorities have continued to selectively deny exit to people who express dissent without due process. The government restricts the movement of citizens within Cuba through a 1997 law known as Decree 217. You know, people complain about Trump's executive orders, but these decrees, I mean, it's a whole nother level.
Mhm.
Designed to limit migration from other provinces to Havana. Apartheid. The decree has been used to harass dissidents and prevent people from traveling to Havana to attend meetings, of course. In May 2019, journalist Luz Escobar of the independent website 14 Medio was barred from traveling to Miami. In August, she was barred from traveling to Argentina, and journalist Javier Valdez from the publication Convivencia from traveling to Spain. Agents informed them only that they were not authorized to travel. Also in August, evangelical pastor Adrián del Sol was barred from traveling to Trinidad and Tobago, where he was scheduled to participate in an event on religious persecution. Interesting. Um, yeah, let's talk about what I just read, because there's a lot.
I have a personal experience about that. In 2002, there was a journey for the Catholic youth in Toronto, Canada, and I was elected from my church in Guantanamo to go to that event. That
Mhm.
was 2002, Toronto, Canada. Yeah, it was a World Youth Journey, and at that time I was on my, I would say, first couple of years of being a physician. So as you know, in Cuba, if you're gonna travel temporary or definitely you have to ask like a permission. It's called liberation or something like that. They call it in Cuba. So I asked for that permission. It has to go all the way up to the levels municipality, provincial, and then nation. And after doing a lot of all those steps, I was finally denied. And I had already granted the visa for Canada. I still have it on my old passport. And the Minister of Health denied me that permission or liberation to go there. And because I was, my family was well known for not being politically correct in Cuba. So especially my dad, he was very opposer. So I wasn't granted to travel to that. So at the very close to the to the date of the event, they had to start the process with another person to fill my space, and that was denounced. I think if you Google it, you can find it. And but nothing happened, and just because in the case of the professionals at that time and now it's back. If you're a doctor, if you're a high trained sport, if you're a scientist, any of interest for the government, you can be subject to those kinds of arbitrarities that they can define if you're going to travel or not.
Yeah.
So it happened
They
to me as
regulate. So basically,
firsthand.
they're called regulated, and basically they regulate these people, especially if you're a professional that they say education is free, but honest, is it really? Because these people have to pay back certain amount of time with their experience back to the country, for work years back to the country. So they regulate if they leave, whether or not they can leave the countries, and that's not for everybody. We all know that. Yeah, it's Osmel, how are you, sir? Thank you for joining us. Is that it's Ernesto?
Ernesto.
Ernesto.
Sorry. Thought it was Osdale over here.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm sorry I'm coming late. I was
Oh,
doing a
no,
lot
no,
of
no, no, no.
house stuff,
You're good.
helping helping the boss of the house, being ready and kind of like do
Uh,
homework. So I'm sorry. It's been I'm
Family comes.
I had to say that actually I came late, but I regret not to be able to come. I got some issues at last
Yeah.
moment that I had to be taking care of it, but next time I'll be one of the first one.
No problem.
So I
No problem. Thank you for joining us. So we're talking about everything that happened this weekend, and basically reviewing
mm,
why we did the protests, and and I think there's actually I'm replying to somebody that says, what's the point of a debate in English when the protest was in Spanish? Well, if you noticed, not the whole protest was not in Spanish. There was some English messages. There was messages in other languages as well, and a lot of our posts were actually in English. So
mm,
these pictures are going to all they're going to be all over the news, and they have their messages are in English. So I think the point came across.
mm,
At least the I know my husband made his, and it said that the U.S. The Cuban government, um, he puts inoculates diseases onto prisoners. He's the one that made that big post, and I think that that message comes across
mhm,
pretty well. So, and it was in English, and I think that wasn't the only one. There was a lot of other posts that were in English. So, um, obviously, the majority of the people that were there spoke Spanish because most Cubans speak Spanish. But I think that the whole point comes across,
mm.
and I know it's coming across, and not just in the Cuban, you know,
Mm.
and not just in the Cuban community, but across other communities as well.
The
No,
message.
yeah, the
Go ahead,
message
Ernesto.
was
Go.
clear. The message was clear, and even though you guys do something very interesting, you did it silent. Even though you guys talk, I mean, I watched the video, the multi videos, everybody sharing, and I
Mhm.
put heart to every single one. I shared all over my social
Right.
media and put
And the
some
fact that we
comments.
were all dressed as prisoners, that alone sends out the message. I mean, that
Yeah.
sent out a very clear message. That we didn't even need to talk, to be honest. That sent out a very clear message. So that was a great idea of Eliezer to have us all put on those costumes, because it
Mm.
definitely sent out a message.
Yeah, it will be even interesting. Now I was like thinking, oh, I can go over there, but I can easily go over here, in Tampa, where I live right now. I
Mhm.
just moving to from Georgia, but
Mhm.
it was something that came onto my mind, like, well, for those who actually couldn't go because whatever restriction, misinformation, because it wasn't clear. I called the actually the
Oh, we lost him. Oh, we're losing you, Ernesto. We can't hear you.
me and my wife. Do you guys see me? I'm here.
Okay, now go ahead.
I called the Department of the Health in New York, and I was asking, hey, if
Yeah.
I want to go, I'm living on Florida. I'm a Georgia resident. I'm gonna pick somebody on New York. What will be my restrictions? Should I quarantine for 14 days? So it was like, back and forth thing, and it was, a lot of problem. But even though, like, when Sunday came out, like, I saw a parade for Donald Trump supporters on here in Tampa, and I was like,
Yeah.
I couldn't see dress, with all that prison thing, go
Yeah.
over there, put a
Yep.
flag supporting Cuba and maybe Trump. And when
Yep.
people asking why you dressing like that, oh, because part of my Cuban friends and brothers are protesting in front of, you know, on
I
the
mean,
building.
yeah, we actually walked through New York City, dressed as prisoners, and people kept asking us, why are you dressed like this? And we kept explaining. And so the message was definitely coming across. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my dog trying to get me to pet him. That's why I keep knocking myself out. Yeah, we can do this anywhere. You're right. We can.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be, in a building itself. Anywhere publicly. Believe me, if you wear that when it's not Halloween, you're gonna be asked, "Why are you dressed this way?"
It's
You're
correct.
gonna draw some attention.
It's correct. I think more of the message should be in English because
I,
Mm.
I agree.
we all Cubans know what happens there because we lived it. But part of the reason why things are how they are in the US is because the narrative is controlled by only one side of the media. No one is speaking against that. And if we
Yeah.
talk, if most, it's all the influencers speaking Spanish, we continue.
Right.
We got covered the Cubans and the Spanish
Right.
speaking population, but
Right.
the English
Yeah.
speaking people.
I totally agree. And so I've been in a lot of Elias's from the beginning. I've been wanting this from day one, but we didn't have the people. So now that I think we have enough people, this is why Riquette and I decided this is the time. Um, but even us, here locally, I mean, that Riquette is involved in his community. I'm involved in my community locally. I mean, I speak at luncheons. I speak, at the counties, city, locally. We all have a responsibility. I feel a very big responsibility upon myself because
Mhm.
we've lived it. We know what it's like. People that haven't been through what we've been through, they take it for granted. Unfortunately, and believe me, I know because I'm living that at home with my own children. With that, as much as I try to send the message across, and they know what their grandparents did for to bring me here as a child, and what they had to leave behind, and all the sacrifices that were made. They just don't get the full spectrum because they haven't lived it. So we need to continue the fight. I actually, what I've done, Raidel, just so you know, and that's why I feel it also, our testimonies are important, for us to give those testimonies. And that's why I spoke with Carlitos,
Mhm.
and I have, started my book because our testimonies are really important. I actually started giving out testimonies in high school, in the Spanish classes. I have a lot of friends that teach high school classes, and they would have me in their, tell my story. Just go in and talk to the kids and say the message, and the kids loved it. I mean, they loved hearing, all this, because it's all new to them, and it's coming from a person that lived it. That's it's the message comes across completely different when it's somebody that has gone through it. And so, it's very, very important. Just like when we look at, the movies of the Jews, and
Mhm.
all that they
Mhm.
went through, all the books, and the documentaries, everything they lived. It's interesting, and when you hear somebody that's gone through something like this. I had a wonderful experience because my second husband, um my son's father, his mother was German, and his grandmother was German. His grandmother was in both world wars. And so I had the experience of her telling me every single detail of what they went through. Her son, was actually, she lost her son in the war. He was killed in one of the concentration camps. They escaped, because the grandfather married her, and they came to the States. They got lucky, but the brother didn't. And so just hearing those things really, they get home, right? So it's important for all of us, and I feel a very big responsibility. And I think it's important. I mean, and I know you do. You do your part, right, Dale, with with the kids in your area. And it's important for us to even as little, even kids, at a younger age, elementary, middle school, we need to be telling them these stories.
Hmm.
They need to hear it, because you know what, they're not here, they're hearing other stories, they're only hearing one side of the stories,
Hmm.
and they need to hear what happens when all of these things are taken away from me, you know
No, you know what is funny too, that I'll for those, I don't have kids yet, but if some days I eventually will, I will actually, when I explain that and show them, and they say, "Oh, I don't believe you," it's like, well, I'm gonna text you. I'm gonna actually show you how it is. I'm gonna put you for a month with the same lifestyle that I used to do. I
yeah,
used to live in Cuba, and you will tell me at the end of the month how you feel, and
yeah,
if you actually gonna like what you had before versus what you lived through the month, and then you're gonna make your own decisions.
yeah,
Because it's easy when you explain it and they say, "Oh, but is that happened?" And it sounds like a story for them. And that's majority of the friends of mine that are Americans, and I told, hey, for a family of six, you had this amount of rice, this amount of oil, this amount to all the,
yeah,
the food that you actually being delivered to. They say,
yeah.
how you guys can make it? I was like, because we,
I mean, I understand the younger generations, and believe me, I understand them, because you know, like my daughter, like we raised her to be a good child, to to uh, to to love everyone equally. And so, when she sees that the Democrats are, you know, are voting for, equal rights for, immigrants or for homosexuals, and so she only sees that side. And yes, they do have, we have a lot of work to do, and I think those things are important. We I think Republicans need to come to an understanding that we also need to work on a lot of those issues, all right? um but we can't lose everything. We just can't. I mean, I think, unfortunately, the Democratic um party has been definitely been penetrated by communism and socialism, and that is a fact, it's very, very scary.
You
mhm.
know what? You know what they say. I have four kids, and one of them he started at the local university here, Arizona State University, and he likes Biden. And so I
Oh
can
yeah,
understand
yeah,
that because they are having a lot of guys going through the universities and twisting their minds. And I the other day we were like in a family reunion, and I told him, there's a phrase that says, if you're 20 years old and you're not a Democrat, you don't have a heart. But if you're 40 years old and you are not a Republican, it's because you don't have a brain.
that's right.
So
We were all 20 at one point, and we were all
yeah,
doing the same thing.
idealistically, and you look like you want to feel like a young Che Guevara at the time, and you're
Yeah,
gonna you're gonna go around the world on a motorcycle, and we can understand that. But I make sure every time we have a chance, a family gathering, to state the facts because
yeah,
facts don't lie, and that's something they cannot take away from us. We have suffered. I spent 4 years in Cuba, and I've been out of Cuba only for 7 years, and I've been through this special period. I went to high school in those kind of awful high school that we have to be internal schools all the way. And then I studied through a career through all the special period and all through the processes and everything. And I had to wait for my liberation as a prisoner to leave the country just to be a private property of the government because I was a professional formed by them. So those facts that cannot lie, and that's gonna be there. The thing is, it's not written yet. So the history books in Cuba are written by the winners, and our story is not reflected there. At some point, it will, and but we have to make sure to keep those memories alive.
But we have to
Because,
start now. That's why it's
yep.
important. We all have to write those memories now because we're gonna forget. Believe me, sometimes I forget what I ate yesterday.
Well, I don't feel bad then. I don't feel bad then.
And Sydney, you hit the point. You hit the point. Everybody, everybody wants to identify somewhat with a Robin Hood story. But I can speak for Fred. I'm going to school too. Now, after I left the military, then I decided to go to school. So now I'm going. Fortunately, it's in Texas. And they come once in a while. And they start that indoctrination process. The secret is, in that place, someone have to stand up and ask them, how are you going to pay for those dreams? No, and they're going to bully you. It's like, how are you going to pay for those dreams? How are you going to pay for this? No, you're going to take it from the rich to give it to the poor. What happened when the rich run out of money? What happened when they are not paying taxes? What is the money going to come from again? That's what happened in Cuba. Mm-hmm. And they're going to bully you again. And this, well, show numbers. How are you going to pay for all that? Why should we pay for, And, immediately you're going to, but that's the only way. As you say, I remember something like that. I read that Churchill said, when you're young, if you don't have a kind heart, you don't have a heart. But when you're old, if you're not a conservative, it's you didn't learn nothing in life. But
you didn't learn anything, right?
Exactly.
That was something funny. That I learned all that once I came here, because we all know in Cuba you don't talk about one side or the other one. You only on the same side that everybody does. And I identify myself. I'm a Christian since I was a little, 5 years old. So I always follow the rules. Now here in America, all those follow the Constitution and what the Constitution says, they call Republican. But I have respect for the other side as long they don't have nothing related with socialism or communism. At the point that they start actually towards the handles more to something that actually push me away from my home country, send me as a stranger to a land of freedom, and now actually when it comes to here, that was like, I'm here because of reason, and that reason is follow me. I had to do something to stop that coming in. And people sometimes don't realize that, and it's very sad to see Democrats defend something, and you tell them, dude, I survive. I'm a survivor of that system. I'm telling you, doesn't work. Don't let that thing fool you for a second. And they keep saying, no, and I was like, okay, well, I'm staying on the right side then, because I'm gonna be on the side that oppose those thoughts, because I'm telling you, it's just a lie. You're lying to yourself, like Radel was saying. How you gonna afford having those big dreams with no solid economy, with no solid money or anything like support all those ideas? They are great. I'm not saying not.
Yeah,
but it's a dream.
When I heard Joe Biden say he was going to put what is it called? Biden care now?
Biden care.
Oh my God.
I
am my family. My family suffer for the Obamacare thing. I'm not kidding. My dad had to pay, I don't know how much it was. It was like crazy. Like, he couldn't afford it. I had to help them to pay the penalty, because he on some point he got laid off. And it was a period of time that he, finding a new job. They charge him for that. And it's like, that's not affordable.
I'm an accountant, and I do taxes at the end of the year. And a lot of my clients were fined and penalized. And, these are middle class, a lot of them are self-employed. And, they just couldn't afford it. It was too expensive for them to afford it. And then they got penalized, and they couldn't afford that either.
And
how how is it that you make it legally they have to get this? No,
Mhm.
that's not right. That's not right.
And the other side is like it was mandatory for those who had private, you had to have it. So
Yeah.
it's not my option to have it. No, you had to have it because the government control that and tells you that you have to do it. If not, you're gonna suffer a penalty at the end of the year. So it's like, okay, so what is the part that you are helping me as a lower or poor class? I don't see it. Explain me because if I can know have the option to decide on my own if I want to have it or not. Besides that, when you call any medical, any office, doctor's office, okay, hey, you got Obamacare. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't take that. I was
That they
like,
were, yeah, they were all against it. They because they weren't getting paid.
Well,
They weren't getting paid.
there are
I
some
mean,
good news now.
yeah,
I mean, Comi Barra just got confirmed by the Senate officially, so
yeah, that's great. Yeah, I saw that. I was just reviewing my stuff, so I just saw that. Yes, thank God.
oh, but
Amen.
I wanna actually, you actually, if you don't mind, share with me that information about tax because people, I mean, I see that repeatedly on the discussions. The
Yeah.
$750 that Donald Trump paid for on taxes.
Hmm.
I hear many people that say business taxes and people who do business is completely different
Yeah, it
way to
is.
tax it.
Yeah, so but I'm guessing that these are his personal taxes that he paid the $750 on because he probably already had paid his business taxes on his business tax returns. So the
Hmm.
business tax returns, he's right. We normally have to pay estimated taxes on a quarterly basis. Those are mandatory. So if you owe more than $1,000 a year, any business that owes more than $1,000 a year, you have to estimate. The estimated taxes have to be paid quarterly. So what happens is, I'm sure, and especially him being in real estate, he gets a lot of different credits if he has a good accountant, because I would have taken a lot of those credits. I do tax planification for my clients, and believe me, it is very, very, they get a lot of credits because
Hmm.
when you own assets like real estate, you get to depreciate a lot of those assets. So if you have a good accountant, you get to have a lot of credits at year end. But additionally to that, I'm sure he paid estimated taxes on his, business returns, and so his probably his personal return taxes were not. But people don't see the entire, and
Picture.
they just don't know any better, and they don't see the big picture. They just see what they want to see,
Hmm.
and
And
it's
also they
unfortunate.
don't they don't read, they don't go and search and say, hey, let me find out if
Right.
this information is true or not, because right now I can say I'm paying only 700, but you will be like, wait a minute,
Right.
how you word like that, and let me go find out how the taxes work for every individual, because I mean, for me it was something new. I thought everybody paid the same, but apparently for business and stuff like that. And the thing I say that is just because I work for a company that actually is you on the airplane, but sometimes people cannot afford the amount of or the cost of the airplane and the maintenance. So what they do, they put their plane under the business. So the
Yeah.
taxes roll under the business. That plane will roll under the business,
Right.
and you don't want to be paying the same taxes, and they use it sometimes for private thing, but also for the company thing, and it's still legal because you don't breaking any rules. And I was
Right.
like, okay, if
No,
that is possible,
there's a lot
what
of
is
deductions. Yeah, as a business, there's a lot of deductions you can take, and again, especially if you're in real estate, there are plenty of credits. Especially these days, there are there are there's opportunity tax. So they this the Congress has this new law where if you invest in opportunity zones, so there are zones throughout the U.S. These are poverty zones, And as an investor, you either buy real estate there or you put a business in those opportunity zones, you are going to get a lot of credits on your taxes because you they want you to invest in those zones. They
Hmm.
want investors because they want to put money into the economy in those zones. But guess what? Guess who's going to take advantage of that? It's the people from those areas.
Hmm.
The blacks, the Hispanics, the minority people that live in those zones are going to take the best advantage of it. Yes, the investors, and I include myself because I actually purchased a property, a real estate property. I purchased a duplex in an opportunity zone. But the the people in those zones, they take, they're gonna get the advantage of having, you know investors put money into those areas, and they
Mm.
need it.
Guys, I
We need
love this
investors.
talk about taxes because we can go forever. We haven't even touched on the home
Jose,
office and the
that's a
remote work,
that's a whole other that's a whole
right off.
other
There
I'm
are many
sorry.
things. It's okay. I
I'm
love this
sorry.
stuff.
I mean, it's something that I would, if you don't mind, you can actually text me
Bueno,
on
te voy a
Facebook.
I'm gonna have to do
I
another
think you
thing
should,
on that.
Iskra. You could open a channel
Yeah,
on like these
and
things.
yeah,
You're gonna
Iska,
get a lot of views.
I would like to
Um,
contact you about that, and kind of like get a little one on
Okay.
one, so you can explain me a little bit because I got a lot of people that actually point that out, and
yeah.
I'm trying to
Okay.
read, but it's better when somebody already know the process and right.
I,
Well,
Hey,
you
this is
know,
what it is.
I heard
absolutely.
Ernesto. I heard actually I saw what is this guy's name from Cubita
Yeah,
now?
the guy from Rich Dad Poor Dad. Is that
No,
him?
no, no, no.
Did I
It's a
hear?
Cuban guy from Cubita now. The that reporter that always argues with Otaola. He says he's
Oh,
impartial, but he leans left.
Sure, like
Um,
everybody.
right? I think his name is Ernesto. I'm
well, I
sorry.
want to
Oh
Uh,
welcome
my
Jose.
God.
he
I,
said that if you're stupid if you believe Trump that
I want
he
to welcome
prepaid his
Jose
taxes,
that has
and
joined us.
I was like,
Hi.
wait a minute.
Oh,
I
somebody.
just
I
did a
didn't
Google
see that.
search, prepaid taxes IRS, and there is Form 1040 ES. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is
Yes,
you can estimate what your taxes will be, and then you can pay them in advance, and then the IRS gives you your money back when they finally look at
yes,
your
yeah,
filing.
yes,
So I'm
and
like, this guy just
I said
told
that's
all
a
these
whole other.
right. But there are
Yeah,
people on
that's
the
a
left.
whole
There's
other
even Cubans on the left that are calling people that support this American president stupid, and they don't have any basis for this, and they are supposed to be intellectuals and art and reporters and all these other things, now
Mm.
whether Trump or prepaid his taxes or not is another matter, but you can actually prepay your taxes.
Mm.
yeah.
But before we continue, I like to welcome Jose. Hey Jose, how
Hi,
are you?
How's it going? How's it going, y'all? Iskra,
Jose,
thank
Hey,
you for
what's up?
Jose.
having
yeah.
me.
Jose,
Wait, wait,
How's it going, brother?
good.
before you start, Jose, I need to say something here, guys. Uh, I called Jose, and I was told I was given the big task. Please, I was going to be the first one in New York. So, I was given the big task of taking care of Jose. Call him, please. Make sure he gets everything he needs. Make sure that he gets where he wants to get. So I texted Jose and I gave him all my information, and I said, anything you need, please let me know. I actually was going to try to get him, some transportation to the airport, and he said, no, 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 I won't. I got this. I got this. I don't need your help. I think I can handle it. I want to take care of this on my own. So I let him be, and he was on time. He was there before many of us. So thank you, Jose, for making that big trip. I know it was a big trip for you. And you know what? You are a really, you know, you're something else.
It was nothing.
That's all I have
It
to
was
say. Thank
no,
you.
thank you, Iskra, and thank you so much for reaching out like 2 days prior. It was an honor to do that. I think I'm privileged enough to be able to do it, thanks to the freedoms we have here. And I think there's the main reason I go for my personal, it's for my personal feeling of knowing that I'm doing it for people who are not able to do it because of the dictatorship in Cuba and because of of that horrible government down there that lacks freedom and lacks any type of dignity for human rights. So it was that's one of the reasons I symbolically for me I wanted to do it myself too, because I think that meant individually for me a lot to kind of symbolize what could be achieved and what many could do if our country was in Cuba was free and people had the freedom to move and travel and people had the freedom to speak, people had the freedom to think however they want and not be sequestered or imprisoned for it. So it was awesome. It was a great experience. The people of Somos Mas, by the way, anybody who sees this video, please come to an event whenever you can. You're going to meet the best of the best, amazing people, and I think every time I go, I'm impressed by the new, but really really heartfelt people that are there. Very real, very honest, and very genuine and loving. So it was an ask to the UN that I don't know if they're going to be if they're really going to look at it or not, because we know that the left sometimes sympathizes more with those tyrannic dictatorships than through the truth of what people suffer. But hopefully one day they're able to come to a real sense and get on the right side of history. So we'll see. But it was awesome. When I got there early, and there was tons of cops. There was a truck. In fact, I was getting my directions to get to the exact spot through cops. I saw cops from the subway station all the way to I got there. And then when I got there, I see a truck, 7 cop cars, and officers all the way around. And I'm like, wait a second, we haven't even started. And I was like one of the few ones there, and I needed to change into into the president's suit to make the to show what we were asking for. And I'm like, man, they're gonna think I'm not just blind. There's something on going upstairs too, because all this cops are probably, what does this guy do? But it was awesome, and hopefully we can do more of that, and we can be there more times and more people. So
Yeah.
Awesome,
That'll be a
guys.
great.
I wanna take it a little bit international to another English speaking country that I have a pet peeve with, and then we'll go and look at another section of these human rights violations. Okay, so let me share with you an
Okay.
interesting event that I found. You know that I like to find my socialist events, and over here you will see this situation. On the left
Ah,
is Jeremy Corbyn, who is the Bernie Sanders of the United Kingdom, England, and
Mm.
Scotland. And on the right is Rafael Correa, who is a former president of Ecuador and a socialist. And now they're going to have a conversation on November 5th. It's hosted
yeah.
by Labor Friends of Progressive Latin America. And, God, in association with Enlace
Ya,
Latinoamericano Europeo Versión Ecuador, Colectivo in United Kingdom, Friends of
no,
Ecuador, etc.,
no.
etc. Um,
Lamar.
now let me show you another interesting thing, which is who is Rafael Correa, because maybe some people don't know who this guy is. Maybe he's just a reputable ex-president of Ecuador. But if you actually look a little closer at his history, you will see that this guy is a gem. This guy, let me zoom in here. One moment. This guy was actually convicted. He left.
Look at this.
He left Ecuador. He had to leave because they were accusing him of corruption. And then the criminal court, he found them guilty of a passive bribery in the Caso Sobornos. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison in absentia because he lives in Belgium now. That's just how he rolls. But I want you guys, and he also was accused of kidnapping his political opponent. But
So
former
another
president
typical
of
socialist living in capitalism. Yeah,
exactly. But I want
exactly.
you guys to see what he was before. He used to be.
Yeah.
Hold on, no, that's not what I wanted to show you guys. It was up here. Yeah, president pro tempore of the Union of South American Nations, and the person that was before there was Michelle Bachelet. Huh. Michelle Bachelet is a
Ah,
former Chilean
our great
president,
friend.
right? And as you can read in her little bio, she came to power in Chile through the Socialist Party, and now she is, drum roll, please. She's the president, or the what you might call it, the she's the boss of the human rights of the United
Yeah,
Nations.
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about here is a coordinated, like persistent
Oh.
effort. Maybe it's decentralized, maybe there's somebody pulling the strings on in somewhere from the Kremlin or from China, but for sure these guys, they talk to each other. They have like conventions, like some people like Japanese cartoons, and they go every year to those weird conventions. Like these people go every year to like socialist conventions. They talk to each other, they plan how to take down countries and protest. We've seen with
Yeah,
them with the Black Lives Matter protests how some of the protesters were trained in Venezuela,
Hmm.
right?
yeah,
The founders are
yeah.
trained Marxists. Maduro visited Harlem, right? Um, we cannot be so naive, right? I think we've been naive and very quiet and very nice for too long, and we are at war. We are
Yeah.
at war. Okay, it's not a. It's. I wouldn't call it a cold war. Maybe it's a lukewarm war, whatever you want to call it. But it is a war of ideas, of how do they say, hearts and minds. Okay, and these guys are winning. Let's be
Yeah.
real, right? We're fighting back right now. We got social media, but even the social media company owners and the employees lean left. It's insane. We have let them take over education, media, just all the cultural things, Hollywood, right? Like anything cultural, anything cool, it leans left for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I wanted to show you. Then I wanted to read a little bit more on the human rights violations, and I'll let you guys, speak over here. One moment, please. Prisons are overcrowded. Prisoners are forced to work 12-hour days and are punished if they do not meet production quotas, according to former political prisoners. Inmates have no effective complaint mechanism to seek redress for abuses. Those who criticize the government or engage in hunger strikes and other forms of protest often endure extended solitary confinement, beatings, restriction of family visits, and denial of medical care. There's been several cases of people having to be basically flown to Miami, and our group and other similar groups that sympathize doing campaigns online and doing change.org petitions to get people out of the island because they've been infected with weird diseases, or the government doesn't treat them, and then they have to be treated in like a country that has real medicine. While the government allowed select members of the foreign press to conduct controlled visits to a handful of prisons in 2013, it continues to deny international human rights groups and independent Cuban organizations access to its prisons. And then let me read labor rights, it's pretty short. Despite updating the labor code in 2014, Cuba continues to violate conventions of the International Labor Organization that it ratified regarding freedom of association. Oh, that's right. Because in the United Nations, the labor unions are super leftist, but in Cuba, labor unions are illegal. You can only belong to one labor union, which is the Communist Party's labor union. What, I don't know the name of it. The People's Labor Party or something, labor union. I don't know. whatever. But like there is no such thing as like private labor unions like you have in horrible capitalist countries. While Cuban law technically allows for the formation of independent unions, in practice, Cuba only permits one confederation of state-controlled unions, the Workers' Central Union of Cuba. Okay, human rights defenders. The Cuban government still refuses to recognize human rights monitoring as a legitimate activity and denies legal status to local human rights groups. Okay, like seriously, United Nations, uh, defund the UN, y'all. The government authorities have harassed, assaulted, and imprisoned human rights defenders who attempt to document the abuses. In July, Ricardo Fernandez Izaguirre, a rights defender and journalist, was detained after leaving the Ladies in White headquarters in Havana, where he had been documenting violations of freedom of religion. He was released after 9 days in prison. That's the other thing. There's religion in Cuba is highly regulated. There's like a council of churches, and then there's like a council of like the Afro-Cuban religion, the Santeria council or something like that, or the culture, whatever they call it. Sexual, I mean, sexual orientation and gender identity. We can pause on that, and I want to hear you guys.
I mean, listen, as far as I can tell, I think the UN is just it's become a cohort for dictatorships. I mean, that's as far as I can tell. They're just that's what they're doing. It's crazy.
The UN meant so much 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
But now, I believe since it have lost all credibility, the big countries like the US and the US is the one that provides the main funding. But China also pays a lot for this, its membership, and the European Union in general is pro-left, so they are paying them a lot. So I think we have a big fight ahead of us, because I personally don't think getting any better before it gets worse.
Unfortunately,
But
not.
we can do our part.
Yeah.
I think the first fight is here in America now.
Yeah, we have to continue the fight here, and get everybody out to vote. That's number one, because every vote, people, and I can't say this, I can't stress this enough. Every vote, if this is the one time, if you've never voted in your life, this is the one time you need to do this, please, because every vote is going to count. It really is. Everything's on the line this time. It's unfortunate.
Hey guys, let me I'm gonna finish up this article because it's pretty short. We're towards the end, and then I think we can start wrapping up, the stream.
Yeah.
Unless you guys want to keep going. Sexual orientation and gender identity. Following public protests, the Cuban government decided to remove language from the draft of the new constitution approved in February 2018 that would have redefined marriage to include same-sex couples. However, transitory disposition number 11 of the constitution mandates that within 2 years after approval, a new family code will be submitted to popular referendum in which the manner in which to construct marriage must be included. Okay. In May, security forces cracked down on a protest in Havana promoting lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights, LGBT rights, and detained several activists, media reported. The protest, which was not authorized, this is key. What is the name? Mariela Castro. She is the daughter of Raul Castro. She is supposedly a lesbian. She is in charge of a government-sponsored LGBTQ organization. However, when gay people, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a like what we call here non not what are these called? Right, exactly. So I mean, she gets grants for
Oh, that's
supposedly
right.
yes.
From the
So wait,
UN. From the UN.
wait. So her organization is technically not part of the government,
No. And they're getting money from the UN.
except that she is the daughter of the dictator.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Right. but she has like an LGBTQ organization that is not part of the government. However, when other types of LGBTQ organizations or just grassroots, LGBTQ folks want to get together and protest, they get shut down quickly by the government.
Yeah. Yes.
De facto, right? That's the thing. There's a lot of things done by de facto. So they try to stay within like the technical language of the UN or whatever laws. But de facto, this is a dictatorship. De facto, there's a lot of nepotism, as you can see here with Mariela Castro. Look her up. Right, it was not authorized, and they had to back out. Basically, they canceled it quick, boy. And then the final section, key international actors. In November 2017, the U.S. government reinstated restrictions on Americans' right to travel to Cuba and to do business with any entity tied to the Cuban military or to Cuban security or intelligence services. In March 2019, the Trump administration opened up a month-long window in which U.S. citizens could sue dozens of Cuban companies blacklisted by the U.S. administration. In June, the U.S. administration imposed new restrictions on citizens traveling to Cuba, banning cruise ship stops and educational trips, such as the one that Carlos Lazo does with high school kids from Washington State. This guy's an agent, and he's teaching your kids America. The U.S. Treasury Secretary said the restrictions are a result of Cuba continuing to play a destabilizing role in the Western Hemisphere, providing a communist foothold in the region and propping up U.S. adversaries in places like Venezuela and Nicaragua by fomenting instability, undermining the rule of law, and suppressing democratic processes. Yes, 110% yes. In March, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights reiterated a request to the Cuban government to be allowed to visit the country to monitor the human rights situation. In September, the European Union's foreign policy chief, Federica Mogherini, visited Cuba to co-chair the second EU-Cuba Joint Council, which discussed EU-Cuban relations, in particular in the EU-Cuba political dialogues, as well as political and trade cooperation. I think we tweeted at her a lot.
Right. So what happened during her visit? Do you guys remember? I mean, so the prisoners. She didn't meet with any of the political prisoners because they were all in jail. They kept everyone from going out and protesting. That's what happened. So
when she visited, the Gente Zona played a concert at the time to take the focus from the media on it. So they were able to show that there was a concert at that time with Gente Zona, and they didn't focus on her visit.
People were happy.
Yeah. Wait, was she the one where they killed all the street dogs, or was that with the Spanish king and queen?
That was with the Spanish king. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's the other part. Animal rights. They didn't even mention. Well, it's not human rights, so it makes sense that it's not here. But yeah, the police just went around and just rounded up all the dogs and just killed them, like right there in your face. We had pictures, like so that there wouldn't be any stray dogs in the streets when the Spanish king was visiting. Let me finish this. I'm sorry. In September, the European Union's foreign policy chief, okay, she went in there. Okay. Cuba's term as a member of the United Nations Human Rights Council expired at the end of 2019. During the, wait a minute, what? They were already in there? This is not, they've been doing this?
Yeah.
I didn't know that they were there before.
When they were killed, when they were there?
Yeah. This is the 5th year.
God. Oh, this is the 5th year? What? I'm sorry, guys, I'm new to this thing. I thought I knew.
Welcome to the reality, I would say.
Wow. No, okay, breathe.
Google doesn't say everything. Sometimes they are high.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't believe we have let this go on for far too long, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sydney, I think you're muted.
I didn't mute him. Okay.
I thought he was trying to say something.
Yeah, I mean, you need to actually step outside a little bit of Google, because there are stuff over there that Google doesn't actually post it. But yeah, it happens.
No, that's the other thing. Have you guys ever tried Googling like news about Cuba and things like that? Like the things that come out are not the things that we know. It's usually just left-leaning stuff, or I mean, or Mark Cuban for
That's
some
a
reason.
lot. That's a lot of secret. That's a lot of secret that's been going on, and nobody
But
knows them.
dude,
So
I mean, it's insane. I wanted to show you guys the whatchamacallit, the Telegram's tweet to Etexa.
oh, that was
Uh,
funny.
yeah, hold on. Let me see, translate this page. Come on.
They shut down
We're
Telegram
here.
because they cannot actually, see what or read what you actually, talking behind that. That was hilarious.
So here it is. So Margaret is a digital attack,
Just
and there
another,
is not a Texa.
just another human rights violation. Just one more.
Yeah. So Etexa, well, just so people know, Etexa is the only internet service provider in Cuba, and the
Hmm.
only cell phone provider in Cuba, and the only just yeah, everything.
Hey, you
The
got
landline
Landline
provider in
provider in
Cuba.
Cuba, the only
you
airplane
got
provider.
options, all right, guys. Don't make it like that. You got options. You got a Texas and a Texas and a Texas. So yeah, you got
Pigeons.
you got
No, even
tired.
even when you travel to Cuba, you had to buy an Etexa SIM card. It's not like you can bring international service to Cuba,
Hmm.
because it's blocked by the satellites and everything. So so yeah, and then Telegram said our users in Cuba are reporting connection problems that prevent them from using our app normally. We are monitoring the situation, but the problem is not ours. We hope that the provider responsible for this problem can provide a solution as soon as possible. It's great.
Yeah, they're hilarious.
I'm glad they did that. Okay, guys. So I'm going to yeah. Let's wrap it up. It's 10. It's been like almost 2 hours.
Hmm.
So we'll do that, and then I'll play a video at the end.
Well, we
Okay.
started a little. Weekend was a little late getting to us today.
Before
Really? Yeah,
before
yeah. You're
Which
gonna
is
out me like that, Iskra? Oh my God.
Yeah,
bad
he
for
was
me.
late. He was late. We were on time. I'm sorry. I'm
Wow.
sorry. You
Wow.
had to give it like a plus and minus. It's like in engineering, you got a
I
plus
had
and
to
minus
escape from
tolerance.
Cuban jail to come over here. Come on.
hey,
You got a little bit of
be,
traffic, on the way out.
before you go, could you tell me who's the Somos Mas rep in Texas, or if there is any active Somos Mas group?
No, man. You can align with me right
In
now
the
in
virus.
Georgia, but I don't think we have anybody in Texas yet. Or you can align yourself with the online group. There's an online group for people like you that don't have
Yeah.
somebody close.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
I got a quick question. Jose, you might help me on that. I heard that it's a group of someone that want to open on Jacksonville, Florida. Is that right?
That is right. But right now I only have like 4 people interested. So I'm waiting for like 6 or 7, so then we can kind of get together in a WhatsApp or something and start something.
Well, I will volunteer to help you out because my
4
first
is
city.
really good. I started with 0.
Yeah, I started with 4,
4
so
is great.
I'm
yeah.
actually on Tampa right now. I'm on
I
Somos
started with
Tampa,
0.
Like, yeah.
but whoever wants help, I mean, I said Jacksonville was the first city that actually welcomed me into the United States, so I consider my hometown, even though I love Georgia with a heart, but I actually don't mind to help you, Jose, so I
Ernesto,
might
I tried to look you up on Facebook the other time. I couldn't find you, so find me so I can connect with you.
you go by Jose.
Armando in Facebook. I'm Jose Armando Morales Perez.
This is awesome.
Got you. I'm gonna look out for you as soon we hang out over here. And
Sydney, what part of the
Awesome.
state are you in?
me,
Sydney. I'm trying to.
Sydney.
Arizona.
Oh, Arizona.
Yeah.
Oh, that's close to Texas.
We're like
Somewhat.
Arizona.
I mean,
9 hours to the border, but Texas is huge.
Yeah, I'm in the
Oh
center.
yeah.
So I'm probably as far from Sydney as I am from Florida.
Are you in Dallas? Where are you? Yeah, Dallas. Actually, I
Dallas.
might be in
depends.
Dallas soon,
You know,
Raidel. So let's connect if I'm there. You have?
remember,
Yeah, are we friends
you're
on
4
Facebook?
hours away from me,
No, I don't
so
think so.
it's okay.
I'll send you a request.
Yeah, man. Send me a request.
Okay.
See what we can do.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Rique,
man. Yeah. Go ahead.
Rique, if you talk to your dad, say man that his speeches is wonderful. If anybody
Yeah.
has the chance to see Albuquerque, he's amazing. And the last one he did, I think, was this weekend. It was for applicable for all of us. He talked about three topics, mainly topics. One was the list of the Taola list. The other one was the position in and out, and he exposed a major things that we actually had to look closely because he was right and everything that he said. So Riquet told you that I'm his fan number one.
Well, Andres is not my dad.
Well, I'm
He's
sorry.
my friend.
I thought he was. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. But I mean,
No.
I admire him.
Actually, Riquet's dad is really Riquet's dad is awesome. We need to bring him in here. I don't know why he
Yeah.
hasn't been in any other debates
Yeah,
lately.
you're
I had to
right. You're right. I
swear
gotta
at
share this on my WhatsApp groups and stuff.
I seen him on
Yeah.
yeah.
Eliezer's.
Yeah,
As-
Hey,
yeah,
I'm
on my
Yeah,
apologize,
whole
he
man.
time.
used to be more active. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he's
For
yeah.
some
he's
reason, I
awesome.
attached you to Albuquerque, so I'm sorry. I was
No,
like,
because yeah, I mean we've been in I've done what you call it interviews with him and everything. So and we kind of look alike a little bit, you know. I cut my hair and stuff, so
yeah.
that makes perfect sense, man.
But I mean, if we can actually watch him, and actually the like very last one, he talks a lot of stuff like we as a position, the outside, we should actually come sit down and kind of reflect a little bit because he touched a couple points that it was very is
Yeah,
happening, and it was very interesting. I was like listening to it in the way back, and I was like, wow, that's true. It's happening, and it's something that, unfortunately, the
well,
education that we have.
what we might do is let's yeah,
Let him speak a little bit, I would
what we
say.
might do is let's review it and see if
Hmm.
maybe he can come in next week and talk to us about it.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can bring him
I can get him in
over.
here.
Yeah, especially the second topic, not about the Otaola list and all that stuff. That's a little bit. The actually
Yeah, we've already
miscommunication
had
between.
enough of that.
Yeah, the miscommunication. To me, the most important part. I haven't seen the third point. It was about the elections, but that part is actually true. Is the miscommunication between the inside of the opposition and the outside, and the back and forth. Who want to actually be the number one, who want to be the number two. Is a lot of issues that we had to fix it in order to actually destroy what we want, conquer the goal that we're looking for, the freedom of our country.
That's
And
right.
he talks about that,
Yeah.
and it was like, wow, that's true, man. You're on the target. So I would say review it and talk about it a little bit. Thank
Sounds
you
great,
guys.
man.
It was a pleasure. Enjoy you guys
Okay.
one
Well,
more
Jose,
time. Enrique.
any last minute things?
Yeah, my last thing is that hopefully we're able to make an impact with our boys, with more people adding to what we're doing. It is not it's I don't know, it's hard to fathom that so many people still accept dictatorships around. That's not normal. That's not the norm, and we should never allow anybody to do that. And like Correa, who Riquet put there, he went to Fidel's funeral. He was the first one to show up, and then
Yeah.
he's connected to a bunch of other people in the network that are now in the UN. So just like that, we need to make sure that we're loud and we defend freedom. Because if it's not us, then who? So hopefully we're able to add this and make this a bigger screen next time and bigger people in the chat. So I mean, not more people in the chat. So hopefully we grow and we make a stand. So
That's right.
I agree.
I like that.
Sydney.
Yes, to say goodbye, I would like to say before I go that what you did in New York is like a spark plug. And I remember seeing each and every one of us. This year has been the year of the change. Maybe it's not the end of the dictatorship, but for sure it's been the year of the change of our minds. I remember seeing each and every one of us. If you remember back a year back, we were at home, maybe reading some books or papers or watching our computers. We've been very active in the social media. We've been very
Right.
active in all the influencers who started with Eliezer. I remember seeing Iskra, Raidel, Jose, Ernesto, and Enrique for the first time those debates with Eliezer. And now we are eager to express what we have inside for sure our mentalities are not the same from a year back. We've grown a lot. We know the way. We just have to keep the the gas pedal up all the way to the bottom and keep doing it because we've been changing minds. Uh, 6 months ago, we didn't even think about having this debate in English. It's been like part of our weekly lives now, and we enjoyed a lot. We learned, and we are doing something. So I thank you all and appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Ernesto, last minute.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys to allow me to be here and express myself and kind of contribute with this great group, even though it's too small right now. But I know eventually we grow up and we look to the same goal: free our country, have those people around the world come back home, because we are spread all over the world, and it's gonna be good to go. I mean, good to have everybody's coming home and enjoy the island that we want to. And those that are being on that big prison for years, get them out of free and enjoy the freedom on everything that we join today's here. So it's a pleasure to work with you guys, and I keep posting, I keep hard working hard for you guys. I mean, with you guys
Yeah.
to something positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, Ernesto. Thank you. Raidel.
Yes, I agree with Sydney. I can see, we can feel the change in the opposition. It is not that there are no 5-minute solutions here, but it is the ball is moving and it's growing every day. And I want to say that I'm really, once again, I feel a little bit guilty that I couldn't go to New York because I saw Jose there and I saw Iskra. I'm like, man, I wish I was there. But
Next time.
and nothing on the short term. I think Cuba should occupy a big part of what we do and what we focus on. I personally am going to be for the next week really concerned and focusing on what's going on in the U.S. because if we lose this, everything else goes. So let's hope that we win this election, the right side, and let's hope that we can continue to have this freedom to continue to do this even more. Let's hope we have some good news November 4th. Nothing.
Yeah.
Big hug, greetings to all, and see you next time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I want to thank each and every one of the supporters that went to where we were, and those that were online, those that shared. And not everyone can get to the protest. Not everyone can be maybe in one of these debates. A lot of people don't like to come on camera. That's okay. But you can do a lot on your end. You can share these posts with your friends, share them with your family. It's important for us to talk to our families about what's going on. All of these things that are happening around the world, it's all connected. I mean, look at what's happening in Chile. Look at, it's all connected. Unfortunately, it's all part of what we've lived already. And the propaganda has spread throughout the world internationally, and we need to continue to just share everything that we see out there. There are times that I don't have time to come on a chat or something, but I try to post at least one thing every day against the dictatorship, against the left, because I feel like at least that day I've done my part. And every single one of us can do something every single day. And that's all. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me. Riquette.
Alrighty, guys. I want to thank everyone for being here. It's always a pleasure and an honor to share this time and these efforts with you. I've actually, maybe a couple of years ago, I wasn't even disconnected to the Cuban community, culture, and our fight. So I'm a recent convert. I think a lot of people have woken up like that recently. So it feels very good to have this family, online, especially. We started being a family online before COVID, and so this has kind of come like a glove for the hand, right? So right now I'm going to share a video of one of also sisters in the fight. She made a compilation, a video of what we did in New York City this past weekend. Let me pull it up.
Oh, Johanna, yeah.
That's right. It's in Spanish. All right. It is what it is. Just let it happen. Yeah. Sorry. Unless there is auto translate. Awesome,
That's
bro.
awesome.
YouTube is communist, but they're really good at this technology.
No,
Let me
I'm
tell you.
Hey, and also, I thought something very quick that even though we actually could, for those who couldn't go to, it's just my personal idea. We can actually roll the same kind of like prison thing through the end of the month. Maybe posting stuff or
So
stressing.
upload the pictures. We're asking everyone to upload their pictures with their uniforms on their prisoners' uniforms, and then put the hashtag that we could because we're uploading those to their Twitter accounts, and where Lazaro is in charge of all of this. I don't know how he does it. He doesn't sleep. He's great at this. He's gonna take care of it all. He's wonderful.
Right. Right. The hashtags are Cuba accomplice, right? And I
No,
think in English, I think to get more more hits, you could do defund the UN. It's ONU accomplice in Spanish, and then you can say maybe defund the UN, hashtag no travel to Cuba, hashtag Cuba violates human rights, things like that. It will really, we will really appreciate the help, guys. So let me get on and put on this video, and here we go.
Y'all.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Cuba no ha ratificado varios pactos y tratados internacionales. Además, ha sido señalada por ser uno de los países con más bajas libertades políticas, civiles y de prensa. Sin embargo, en días pasados, la dictadura fue electa para integrar el Consejo de Derechos Humanos de la ONU. Para dar una respuesta contundente a esa farsa, un grupo de alrededor de 60 cubanos procedentes de distintas regiones de Estados Unidos se reunieron en New York frente a la sede de la Organización de las Naciones Unidas.
Michelle Bachelet, deja de escuchar todos los días las mentiras de la dictadura y escucha el clamor de sus víctimas, escucha el clamor de los cubanos, de los venezolanos libres del mundo.
Bueno, así me sentía yo cuando estaba en Cuba. Ahora le mandé una foto a mi familia y me dijeron, pero si ya tú conociste la libertad, ¿cómo es posible que tú estés así? Así nos tenemos que sentir nosotros. Digo, bueno, sí es verdad, pero yo no estoy haciendo esto por mí, lo estoy haciendo por ustedes allá.
Los allí reunidos fueron convocados por el movimiento político Somos Más y enviaron mensajes de denuncia en distintos idiomas.
We are here representing those that don't have a voice.
Más que nada es una traición que Cuba esté formando parte del Consejo de Derechos Humanos. Es una traición al pueblo de Cuba que está sufriendo estas violaciones de derechos humanos.
Lo que más pena da es que haya países que se presten para este juego, para esta falta de respeto con todos, porque no es solo con Cuba, es con la humanidad entera.
Hoy por hoy, las Naciones Unidas que aquí están al lado de nosotros, se han convertido en cómplices de todas estas dictaduras a nivel mundial. Los cubanos no vamos a aceptar más la complicidad de la ONU con los represores de nuestro país. Y lo que queremos es muy sencillo, que el Consejo Universal de los Derechos Humanos no esté conformado por dictaduras.
Algo a destacar fue la participación y apoyo de activistas políticos y de otros países que les acompañaron como muestra de apoyo a la causa cubana.
Muchas gracias, estoy impresionada con todo este esfuerzo que están haciendo. Es una verdadera lección para nosotros los bolivianos, que si ustedes saben, estamos luchando por nuestra democracia en estos momentos y nos aterroriza ser la próxima Cuba.
¿Por qué las dictaduras están sentadas al lado de las democracias? Para para las dictaduras. ¡Cierra la muralla!
¡ONU! ¡Cómplice!
¡ONU!
¡Cómplice! ¡Cómplice! ¡ONU!
Cuando todo parecía haber acabado, una voz propuso irse al Lexington 315, la céntrica intersección neoyorquina donde se encuentra la misión diplomática cubana ante la ONU, y allí continuaron alzándose las voces en nombre de los cubanos, quienes también expusieron carteles con fotos de todos los presos políticos. Fue evidente que los representantes de la dictadura dentro del edificio estuvieron bien atentos y optaron por fotografiar y filmar, quizás para intentar intimidar a los participantes, quienes no se detuvieron y mandaron mensajes bien directos a la dictadura.
¡Abajo el comunismo! ¡Abajo! ¡Abajo la dictadura! ¡Abajo! ¡Libertad para los presos políticos! ¡Libertad!
Este encuentro entre cubanos estuvo posicionado en las redes sociales con las etiquetas ONU cómplice y fuera dictaduras del Consejo de Derechos Humanos.
En Madrid, mi vida es unir, en afrenta los pueblos unidos, el clarín escuchar.